we need to continue graphing using the vertex, the x-intercept, and the y-intercept. So we always start with the vertex. That's how we're going to be doing questions later on. We've got a new method that we'll learn. But like I said before, it won't always give us our x and y intercepts, and sometimes those are useful. So this is method number 1, where we're graphing these shapes. We've never graphed this parabola shape before. We've always graphed straight lines, and now we kind of know how. You start with a vertex, you've got your x-intercepts, you've got your y-intercepts. It gives you a pretty basic outline. So that's what we're going to do here. And you need to know how to complete the square. I have this little squiggly arrow. That is the only work that I ever show for how did I complete the square, which is almost nothing. So how do we do this? We need to create a square. So I've done that right there. I've squared something. And I need to get -6. So I take -6 and I cut it in half and I get -3. So that's what's on the inside. And it's been like that. This is the 5th one that we've done. Then, like I said before, you could, if you wanted to, pause this video right now and FOIL that. However, I know at the very end you're going to get a +9. And I know that because -3 squared is going to be +9. -3 times -3 is +9. So I'm at a +9. So I'll write that off to the side here. -3 squared is 9. So I'm at 9 and I need to get to 5. So I'm going to take away 4. 9 minus 4 will be 5. So if you were actually to rewrite this whole thing, x minus 3 squared minus 4, you would FOIL that. You'd get x squared minus 3x plus 9 minus 4. And you would get, these would join to get a -6x. These would join to get a +5, which matches what we originally had. So yes, that does indeed work. So this is our vertex form, which is only ever useful for finding, you guessed it, the vertex. So our vertex is x comma y. It's the same number that's in the inside. That's your x. It's beside the x. However, you change it, the symbol. So I'm going to go from a -3 to a +3. And then the outside number is my y. It's a -4. So that is my vertex. 3 comma -4. So I'm going to write that now. Yeah, 3 comma -4. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. And that is my vertex. Now I'm going to do my x-intercepts. So I've got my x-intercept and I've got my y-intercept. I got to do both of those. Now for my x-intercept, and you're going to have to just remember this, to find your x-intercept, y is going to need to equal 0. And my y-intercept, x is going to need to equal 0. So if I write down my equation, which I don't know what the original one, oh there it is, was. So I have y equals x squared minus 6x plus 5, and I make the y 0. So y is now set to 0, equals x squared minus 6x plus 5. This is something that we solved last unit. We can solve this. You could not do this in grade 9 or grade 10 because you didn't know how to solve questions that were x squared and x's, but we now know we can do that by factoring. So I think -5 and -1 get me +5, and my diagonals are -1x and -5x, which get me -6. So x minus 5 and x minus 1. So I have x minus 5 equals 0, or x minus 1 equals 0. So I can add the 5 over to the other side. So x is equal to 5. And I can add the 1 over to the other side and get x equals 1. I'm not going to do that work because we did that back in grade 7. So it's not really necessary right now. There are our 2 points, our x-intercepts. So we cross the x-axis at 1 and 5. So there's 1 and there is 5. Okay, and that was, for whatever reason, this color. Now, we need to do the y-intercept. So the y-intercept is when we make x equal to 0. So I start with the equation, x squared minus 6x plus 5, and I make the x 0. So 0 squared minus 6 times 0 plus 5. 0 squared is 0, 6 times 0 is 0, so all I'm left with is a 5. So y is equal to 5. And that would be right here. This is the y-axis. And so I go all the way up to 5. And then I try my best to connect the dots and create this parabola shape, parabolic, this U-shaped, this quadratic. So I'll leave that there for a second. And I'll just zoom out so you could pause it and do that one, or copy anything you need to. Though, like I say, look at the notes, it's nicer. And I'm going to go right into the letter C. So I need to do vertex again. So I'm going to create a square. And I'm going to take the middle number and cut it in half. -2 cut in half is going to be -1. So I'm at -1. And then I'm going to FOIL it. I'm going to FOIL x minus 1 squared, or x minus 1 times x minus 1. I'm going to FOIL that. However, the last term is going to be -1 squared, which is -1 times -1, which is +1. So I'm going to be at, so -1 squared gets me +1. So I'm at +1, and I need to get to -8. Now on a number line, there's 1, here's 0. Whoops, I obviously don't know how to draw a number line. There's 1, there's 0, there's -1, all the way down here to -8. So to get from here all the way to there, I have to move in the negative direction, and I need to move 9 spaces. So I need to subtract 9. So if you're at 1, how do you get to -8? You need to subtract 9. Therefore, I can now find my vertex. My vertex is going to change the x to a +1 instead of a negative, and leave my y as a -9. So that is my vertex, 1, -9. So 1, and down 9. Now, 1, -9, I need to find my x-intercepts. So my x-intercept is when I set y equal to 0. Okay, so I got to write down the equation, which I've forgotten now. Y equals x squared minus 2x minus 8. Set my y equal to 0. X squared minus 2x minus 8. And I can factor that to be -4 and +2. Let's see, that multiplies, the right side multiplies to -8. That diagonal is 2x, that diagonal is -4x. And if you add them, I get a -2x. And that is my inside there. So 0 equals x minus 4 and x plus 2. So I can have x minus 4 equals 0 or x plus 2 equals 0. So I can bring, for this one here, I can add the 4 to the other side. So it's a +4. And here I can subtract the 2 to the other side. So -2, cross that off. It's a -2. So my x-intercepts are -2 and +4. So I cross the x-axis at -2 and +4. And I have my vertex still down there. Yes, I do. Oops. And I now need to do my y-intercept. Okay. So my y-intercept happened when I make my x equal to 0. So y equals x squared minus 2x minus 8. So now I'm going to make my x 0. So 0 squared minus 2 times 0 minus 8. 0 squared is 0, 2 times 0 is 0, so all I'm left with is a -8. So I cross my y-axis at -8. So that's down here. That's my y-axis is right here, and I cross it at -8. And now I can connect the dots and kind of make this U shape as best I can. And there we have it. So that is my parabola, and I've shown my x-intercepts, my y-intercept, my vertex. I'll zoom out so that you can see all of my work, but again, just take a look at the notes for something that doesn't look so pathetic and overwhelming.